Single dad CEO hires a caregiver for his daughter, but she turns out to be someone he never expected. Chapter 1: The Interview. The rain was coming down in sheets, lashing against the glass walls of the penthouse office. James Archer, CEO of Archer Tech and one of the youngest billionaires on the East Coast, stared blankly out the window. His assistant had left a steaming cup of black coffee on the table, untouched. Behind his perfectly tailored suit and commanding presence, James was a man crumbling inside. Ever since his wife passed 3 years ago in a tragic accident, life had become a relentless balancing act between boardrooms and bedtime stories. And while he had a team of nannies and tutors for his 6-year-old daughter, Lila, none of them stayed long. She wouldn't speak to most of them. Wouldn't even look them in the eye. Until now, he'd always thought he could fix anything, with money, with power, with control. But nothing seemed to fix his daughter. Mr. Archer, his assistant's voice broke the silence. Your 2 p.m. interview is here. Miss Ella Hart. Send her in, James said, not looking away from the window. He heard the soft click of heels before he heard the voice. Mr. Archer, thank you for meeting with me. James turned slowly. The woman standing before him wasn't what he expected. She wasn't wearing a crisp blazer or parading a resume thick with credentials. She wore a simple gray dress, her dark curls pulled back in a loose braid. But it was her eyes that stopped him cold. Hazel. Familiar. He blinked. Do I know you? He asked, narrowing his gaze. Ella hesitated, her smile wavering. I doubt it. But I know you, in a way. Chapter 2: Shadows from the Past. Ella got the job. Not because of her credentials, though she did have them. But because something about her calmed Lila. On the first day, the child peeked out from behind her blanket fort and whispered, "You smell like pancakes." Ella laughed. That's because I made some. Lila came out. It was the first time James saw his daughter speak to someone new without coaxing. Over the next few weeks, the house that once echoed with silence and structure began to bloom with giggles, messy hair, and bedtime songs. Ella played the piano in the evenings. She made crafts with Lila. And strangely, she never once looked uncomfortable in James's imposing mansion. He started lingering in the kitchen longer after breakfast. Asking questions. Watching her laugh. But there was something about her. Something too familiar. A voice, a glance, a laugh he couldn't quite place. Then, one night, it hit him. Chapter 3: The Photograph. He was up late, pacing his study, trying to finalize a merger proposal. Lila had left her backpack near his desk. Sighing, James bent to move it, and a paper slipped out. It was a drawing. Stick figures. One small one labeled me. Another, taller, with curls, Ella. And beside them, a figure labeled Daddy, with a heart connecting all three. A pang shot through his chest. He hadn't realized how deeply Ella had settled into their lives. Still, that feeling of familiarity itched at his mind. He opened a locked drawer and pulled out a small box. Inside were old photos from his college years, the ones he'd never gotten around to digitizing. And there it was. A photo from a volunteer trip. Him, younger, surrounded by kids and local organizers in Guatemala. And right beside him, a girl with a braid, laughing. Ella. Chapter 4: What She Never Told Him. He waited until Lila was asleep. I need to talk to you, James said, his tone careful. Ella looked up from the book she was reading. You were in Guatemala. 2011, weren't you? She froze. James walked over and placed the photo on the table. Why didn't you tell me? Ella looked away. I didn't think you'd remember me. I was just one of the local kids in the village your team visited. You donated a library and books. You probably don't even recall half of it. I remember you handing out hand-drawn bookmarks. She smiled faintly. That was me. James sat, still processing. So you came here. I got a scholarship from one of the foundations your company helped fund. I studied in Boston. Became a child therapist. When I saw your ad, I hesitated. But then I thought, maybe this is my chance to give back to the man who once gave me everything without knowing it. James looked stunned. Ella continued, softly, you didn't just donate books. You gave a girl hope. I thought, maybe, I could return that gift. To you. To your daughter. Chapter 5 The Birthday Party. Lila's 7th birthday came on a rare sunny Saturday. The backyard was transformed into a fairyland. There were cupcakes, streamers, bubbles, and for the first time in years, laughter rang out like music. James watched Lila chase butterflies with Ella. There was no tension, no grief. Just joy. He found himself smiling. Really smiling. Later, after the guests had gone and Lila was asleep in a tent made of blankets and dreams, James found Ella on the patio. I owe you more than a salary, he said quietly. You don't owe me anything that I think I do. They sat in silence for a moment. Then he added, you didn't just care for my daughter. You brought her back to life. You brought me back to life. Ella blinked back emotion. I just followed the kindness you once showed me. Chapter 6 A different kind of proposal. Weeks passed. Seasons began to shift. The leaves outside turned gold and crisp, and with each day, James grew more certain. He didn't want to go back to how life was before Ella. So one evening, with no grand gestures, he sat beside her on the porch while Lila painted their toes with glitter polish. I was thinking, he began. She looked over, an eyebrow raised. I've had a lot of people walk in and out of my life. But you walked in, and brought light with you. He paused, nervous now. I don't want to lose that. Ella smiled, understanding blooming in her eyes. I'm not going anywhere. And Lila, with a giggle, sealed the moment. You're gonna be my new mommy. James looked at Ella. She reached out, squeezing his hand. Only if that's what she wants, Ella whispered. Lila nodded, wrapping her little arms around them both. Then it's perfect. Epilogue full circle. Months later, James and Ella stood together at a ribbon-cutting ceremony. A new children's therapy center, funded by Archer Tech, was opening downtown. Named the Heart Center. In the crowd, young children clapped and danced, just like those kids in the old Guatemala photo. The circle had closed. And a new one had begun. Because sometimes, kindness isn't just about what you give. It's about who you become, when love, once given, finds its way back home.